Do you hear that? Okay, I had to start with I'm happy. Hello and welcome to Noonchi's live deep dive on The Good Bad Mother, 나쁜엄마. Had to start off my Monday playing that song. That song, I'm Happy by Yoon Hang-gi, is now iconic. That's actually how the K-drama starts off, with I'm Happy song. And then you guys know that this was the mom's, the main character, Yeong-soon's cell phone ringtone. So I had to play it. And so please add it to your playlist because it's really fun. It's from the 1990s, 1998, I believe, and just brings back that nostalgia. Where are you guys dialing in from? Put it in right now. Comment. I love to know as I prepare what I want to talk about. Oh gosh, let me tell you. I had to bring out tissues. Yeah. As I was looking at some of your questions and just thinking about so much I wanted to share about this K-drama. Yeah, I got the tissues ready. Yeah, this is always on my desk. So The Good Bad Mother, 나쁜엄마, to me, for this year, 2023, is the best K-drama for mental health. Now, let me explain that. There's complexities to that. It doesn't mean it's immediately going to cheer you up. It was heavy. There was very, very deep emotions. You had all the feels, but the difficult feels too. There was happiness and there was sorrow, regret, remorse, reconciliation, forgiveness, all of the above. That makes an excellent K-drama, but I'm going to break it down the best I can in a short amount of time why I think it's the best K-drama for mental health this year. Okay, oh, India, I'm loving it. Rewatching it now, yes, I actually pulled out the tissues because I had to rewatch this one scene right before I got on, and then I was like, oh my gosh, you know? So if I look this way, that's why. But I love it. Let's see who else. Okay, you guys, India, I see California, Singapore, Philippines, South Africa. Oh my gosh, I love it. Portugal, I do want to go there. That's on my bucket list. Okay, let's get started. Good Bad Mother. Love the song. By the way, it's Yoon Hang-gi, so you guys can find it for Spotify. Let's start off with the fact that this is a drama. So there is beautiful acting across the board. I mean, you saw these actors go from a range of emotions that are gripping you. You feel every one of their emotions, and I loved the range of emotions. So in real life, the range of emotions are legit. Meaning, we may wake up down in the dumps and depressed, but then a few minutes later, we feel happy, and then we could get to mad. Do you know what I mean? Those are normal for us to feel those range of emotions. You can't compartmentalize and put your emotions here, and then it's here. So what we saw in that K-drama, like other K-dramas, that range is so real, and I loved it. And we got to give kudos to the actors. I mean, yeah, they got to win some awards, right? Especially the kids, the littles, the twin kids. Oh my gosh, everything was beautiful. The community, I loved every part of it. It's exactly what I thought. Again, albeit a little bit heavier than I expected. But I also love the fact that, and people brought this up, the roller coaster of emotions. It's difficult to feel that roller coaster of emotions, but do you know how healthy it is? In our day-to-day life, we don't actually get to show those emotions because we're working or we're trying to, be professional or be a mom or an adult and you're working with people, so you hold things in a bit. But when you can watch that K-drama like Good Bad Mother, or other K-dramas, and you feel those range of emotions, that's so healthy. So that helps us express. So I think that's another reason why I recommend it for mental health. But the key theme here, I'm going to do my best to break it down. Plus, I'm going to answer 8 questions or touch on that. Number one thing that this K-drama does very well, and I think it's the best example that I can think of, and I thought it immediately when I saw the first episode, that it is a beautiful example of intergenerational trauma. Let me break down intergenerational trauma. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps you're very familiar with it. Perhaps you're here and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to talk about this. Well, the reality is, it is part of all our lives. If you are part of a family of generations, right? Generations of family, multi-generations, from history, your ancestors, to current family today, I need you to look at the family dynamic. And there's trauma involved there. That doesn't mean you directly experienced it. Intergenerational trauma, let's talk about Yeong-soon, which is La Miran's character, brilliantly acted, beautifully done. she from the get-go experiences such a distressing, horrific trauma that you wouldn't want on anybody. And deep down, by the way, there's spoilers here, so if you don't want spoilers, you may not want to watch until later. You don't want that on anybody, knowing that her beloved husband was killed, right? So deep down at the heart of it, she knew that it was not right, and then there's corruption so deep that she had no idea about. But don't forget, Yeong-soon is pregnant. At the time, oh my gosh, episode 1, like, okay, there goes the emotions. I might need tissues. Where you're pregnant and your trauma experience, especially when you're pregnant, because you really have to take care of 2 people, is even more profound, that traumatic effect. Why am I sharing about that? Because I want you to understand Yeong-soon's character to Kang-Ho's character. That mother-son relationship is what makes this drama. Everything else is icing on the cake and things that we love to see. But really at the heart of it, the good, bad mother is about the good, bad cycle of intergenerational trauma. Good, bad. Those are 2 opposites. Dialectics. Remember I told you guys about that? So they work hand in hand. There is no good or bad. There is no good and evil. They all can coexist. They have to. This is real life, right? So that intergenerational trauma, let me define it. A trauma, distressing event, adverse experience, disturbing experience, experienced or felt by one generation that gets passed down through the following generations by effects, impact, behavior, all of the above. The narrative, it gets passed down to subsequent generations. So my experience today as Jeannie Chang in 2023 is very much impacted by my ancestors from Korea. Okay? That's intergenerational trauma. Don't be wary of the word trauma. Trauma is a part of all of us. Distressing events, adverse experiences, we have them, right? And I'm a trauma-informed clinician, which means I see it from that perspective. But you don't have to let trauma define you. And why I love The Good, Bad Mother is that it also shows an excellent example of how they broke the cycle of trauma. Let me explain. So let's go through your questions. Someone was saying this is a universal theme, particularly the parenting. I'm going to start there. This drama was not for everybody. In fact, I know quite a few people of my besties who love K-dramas galore and also Korean felt it and had a difficult time watching. And so they didn't finish per se, but they want to watch because they know there's so much good stuff in it, but I'm not going to push anybody to watch it. If it's triggering for you, if you feel distressed, stop watching, because the whole point is I want you to feel better when you're watching something, right? And you don't want to be more distressed. The difference here is people have shared a little bit about abuse. When they've experienced it, perhaps an adverse childhood event, childhood trauma, that is quite triggering. This K-drama can be quite triggering in that sense. However, I also want to point out, why am I talking about this? Because there's such a strong, powerful healing factor, and I'm bringing this drama up as showing an example of how you can break the cycle of trauma for future healing. That does not mean, and we saw the end, that does not mean that it's all happy-go-lucky from here, right? There's some things to work through. We're assuming there's more to life past that, but the healing has already begun even before Yeong-soon's passing away. So there's a spoiler, and that's sad in itself. But I'm going to point out, even though, because you guys shared that you guys were sad about her death, but it was so well done because she was so happy when it came to that point. I think we saw it coming. I mean, I thought maybe they would finish the drama and we wouldn't have to see that. But I thought it was beautifully done. Again, the peace of the main character, the good, bad mother, or the 나쁜엄마, the bad mother, was at peace. And she was happy when that happened to her, when she passed away. And her son, sad, obviously, we saw that. But also there was a peace there because we knew everything had come full circle and closed the case on their storyline, right? Now, I'm going to share something real quick that I wanted to make a note of. In Korean, it is called 나쁜엄마. It's called bad mother. There's no good to it. So I was trying to analyze this going, they didn't even say good, bad mother. They're saying bad mother. I'm just pointing that out, that there's a different meaning in the Korean translation because it just says bad mom. And so I don't know how the good, bad mother came about, but I think it's just to help folks understand, because in Korean, we do say things like that. 나쁜엄마 or 나쁜, either we say that as like a nickname, not really so much meaning that, but it's so meaningful that it's just bad mother. But someone asked this, do you think she really was a bad mother when Kang-Ho was a kid? I'm going to say quite frankly, no. There is a difference between abuse discipline. Abuse and discipline. Let me tell you the difference. This discipline is meant for good to benefit the child. Even though there's some harsh methods, let's just bring it out there. I mean, there's harsh methods that I was triggered because it reminded me of my own upbringing, but I was like, oh. But I'm going to share this. You saw Yeong-soon's intention a lot. Perhaps maybe not very early on, but pretty much after the accident, Kang-Ho's accident, you saw it. So when you see that intention meant for the sake of her son, a sacrifice, let's be real, whoever are parents, when you have to discipline your kids, it is not easy. It is not easy saying no. It is not easy being firm. It is not easy to provide that discipline when you just want to say yes and do it. What she did was quite a sacrifice to be grappling so emotionally with difficulty to train her son or to get her son better. And I felt it, maybe because I am a mom, but I also believe you could see it clearly. The love is there. So that's the difference. Abuse is control meant for selfish gains, and it's meant to harm and instill fear. That's not what we saw. But that said, I will say, because this is a Korean culture, I'm able to understand that. La Miran was actually interviewed, I think a couple days ago. I read her beautiful interview, and she said that it was hard for her to do this. As an actress, she did not agree with the mom's methods. However, she understood it because that's part of the culture, or she felt it and knew this is why the mom is doing it this way, for the sake of her son, for her son to get better, for everything she wants for her son, right? Let's hear what this person said. Discipline without considering child emotions can create trauma for child. That's clearly just projection without creating boundaries with compassion. Yes, and so let me address that. I think that's very well said. That is why I'm talking about intergenerational trauma. This is not to defend, oh, this is why they're traumatized and that's why they're doing this. This is to explain the meaning behind people's actions that are difficult, sometimes extremely difficult. And I'm sharing this from a perspective of seeing this in the Korean culture, Asian culture, that's threaded throughout our narratives, that these behaviors get passed down. In order to break it, there has to be a self-awareness. What we saw later on, and that's what I need you to focus on, because if we focused on the fact that she did this, and then there's some trauma involved on Kang-Ho, and I'm going to talk about Kang-Ho in a second. Yes, indeed, he struggled. There were some traumatic effects. And you saw some of his behaviors, right? However, I need you to look at the entire arc. That's why we have to finish the K-drama to see it and see what came out of it. He, at the very end of the day, not the very end of the day, loved his mother very much, that he looked for things in his own life when she wasn't around. Miju was the one that literally said that, going, you have to understand that he was happy. He played that song. That is a moment where I was like, okay, the tissues, because it means there was some understanding on Kang-Ho's part of why his mother did what she did. The intergenerational trauma on Yeong-soon is she experienced a horrific tragedy, was pregnant with her son, and had to survive, right? She raised her son. So you saw it. Those brief messages of her saying, stop crying that you don't have a dad. Do you remember that? Work hard, be a prosecutor so you can basically live a life that she's not living. You hear that through parents all the time. That's actually why parents stress out about things or freak out about things. They don't necessarily want you to make the same mistakes that they have made. They want to protect you. Again, the methods are not necessarily the best. Let's just put it out there. But I just need that understanding to come in of why I'm talking about this for mental health, because mental health doesn't always look like the best. Therapy is extremely difficult. So when people go through therapy, there are times when they're so triggered, but they're in therapy, what is supposed to be a safe place. So you have to understand that. And that's what I mean by that. So let's talk about that. Now let's talk about when he was a kid. People are saying, do you think she was a bad mother? I think Kang-Ho did suffer. And I think it was very hard to see that, right? And so it's sad in that sense. That is why the mother had lots of regret. So the fact that this accident happened, and that's the whole point of the drama, to start fresh and live a life with her son that she didn't necessarily have. I mean, that was the whole point of the story, right? But making amends, trying harder. She still showed the 나쁜엄마 part, the bad mother of like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a little bit cold and stoic to make sure that you're successful and that you can heal, blah, 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 all that you're like, oh my gosh, why can't she just be it this way? But again, that is the culture. that is part of her own self-sacrifice, that she cannot have her son experience what she did. Again, don't forget what she went through. Her trauma wasn't even really addressed. It was more of a, I would say, reconciled or redeemed at the end when the court case was solved and she saw justice. So that was her piece. But at the very end of the day, to heal from trauma, you need help. Professional help, right? That wasn't there. And I understand that this is a drama, but let me just share this. That was crucial in this drama. How they were able to heal. Anybody want to guess? I'm going to ask you guys. Was Yeong-soon and Kang-Ho able to heal? Break the good, bad cycle of intergenerational trauma? I'm waiting. You know how? They had support. Their community. So that neighborhood, let's talk briefly on that neighborhood. That's one of your questions. Beautifully, they're odd. Okay, some people were odd, I'll say, but cracking up odd, right? You laughed, you cried, you saw their range of anger, frustration to love, real life. Then you saw some angst, in between the moms and competition. I thought that was so realistically done that it was actually very poignant. But that community, your support, I say this in every deep dive, everything I say, your support is critical to your healing. The right support, let's be real. And in this drama, the community was an amazing support to Yeong-soon and Kang-Ho. Miju was a key support to actually Kang-Ho, but also to the mother. So do you see those examples? That's how you heal from trauma. Intergenerational trauma must be said and talked about. For instance, that elephant in the room that's in your family? You know what I mean? Nobody, don't talk to Uncle Blank about this. Don't talk to your mother about this. Oh, your dad just freaked out. That's the trauma not being discussed. That is actually the first thing that needs to be addressed. You don't have to say, by the way, uncle or grandmother, Halmoni, you're traumatized. You don't have to say it like that, but you can understand, hey, can we talk about, hey, what happened when you left North Korea and escaped to South Korea? I'm thinking about my family. I just want to know more about your experience, right? And so that's what I mean about talking about it, to let that expression of just experiences, but emotions come out. The elephant in the room goes away. That's the main point. You need to talk about things when you're ready. So you will not ever hear me say, I need you to talk about it now. No, it's when you're ready. And so when things trigger you, that's why you hear me say, I need you to not watch it. And you perhaps don't need to go back. There's a reason why there's a trigger. But I do also need you to understand that eventually it's helpful to address it in your own time, in your own way. So let's talk about, how did you feel about Kang-Ho ignoring his mom in the beginning of the story? I brought this up because I thought it was obvious, but I'm going to explain. Remember in the beginning of the episodes, we were shocked by some behavior we saw, Kang-Ho, but let's break it down. He wasn't really behaving that way. He was trying to survive his own trauma, passed down from his mother, okay? The fact that his father was murdered, so that became his life mission, pretty much, to do something about it and bring those folks to justice. That's the big thing about a drama. That's what you want to see. That's the plot, right? So it's exaggerated, it's dramatized, but he needed to also heal and figure that out for himself because he knew his mom was behaving a certain way the entire time he was growing up. That was difficult for him. He figured it out. He figured out everything, and that's why he was behaving that coldly, because he had to cut off ties. He had to do some extreme things. Again, this is a drama, so that's part of me explaining that's probably why they did it. He had to hurt his most beloved relationship, Miju, and that was very difficult. And some of you guys had mentioned why that apology to you was not enough. I agree. There's more. Let me just tell you, this episode should have been 16 episodes. Yeah. So 2 more episodes, we probably would have seen the amends, them living, a certain life together, sharing to their kids that he is the father, which did not come about, which I think was a little bit of a deficit. But again, I really believe if I had to focus on the whole story and the narrative, it was on the mother and son. And so even though that part of the story is important, that Kang-Ho is these 2 cute kids' father, it wasn't as relevant in how the mother and son came to peace. I think that's very important. That is about intergenerational trauma. Someone brought this up that I thought was so poignant. Sometimes people don't understand how a trauma can bind a family extra close for life. That's the other benefit. So I'm not saying, geez, I want you to have a trauma and then you can talk about it. No, nobody wants that for anybody. but it's happened or it's there. It's part of your family history perhaps, and currently impacting you today. It can bring you closer together if you address it. And there may be times that you don't address it to the point that you may want. I share this a lot because I work with intergenerational trauma so much that your older generation doesn't know what it looks like. They don't know what it is. There's no language around it. You may have the language around it going, this is what it is. I know what this is. Now we're defining it. But previous generations don't. So don't expect all this from them. Just know that you can bring it up perhaps in your own way. You can break a cycle. Otherwise, why am I doing my job? My whole point is to heal from what's happening or what has happened to change your current narrative for your future. And so you can get off that cycle, good, bad cycle, and figure out a way to heal, but it's a constant process. You may go off and go like, I'm good, but something else happens. Grief comes about, some experience that happens in adulthood, right? So that's so important, right? I'm seeing some stuff. Let me pause on this and say, how did he overcome his anger from her though? And he wrote bad mother. You know what? It may look like he overcame his anger, but I don't believe so. I believe that anger is part of his narrative. It's actually probably what drove him to figure out the justice of the bad people that basically killed his dad. Am I making sense? Just because we don't see it, and don't forget, this is acting, right? Believe that anger to be part of his narrative. You saw it. You saw the way he acted. He probably brought that anger out to his mom, to Miju, to do what he needed to do. And a lot of people are saying, how could he do that? Well, I see it. I've seen it all the time. I'm sure that's how you survive. Think about how you've survived and you've had to be a certain way. Survival can come a lot at work. For instance, you need to put a game face on at work. Someone hurts you, but you can't show your hurt. That's an example of what Kang-Ho was doing. Just again, to the drama points. This is a K-drama, so we're going to see things dramatized. And I do love the fact, it's really hard to explain to my foreign parents. Yes, oh gosh, I love these comments. How to address it when your parents are not ready. I always say, do not address it if your parents are not ready. So just because I said I want you to talk about the trauma, I'm talking about you talking about it. Whether it's getting help, talking about it in a safe place to your spouse, partner, friends, family members that understand it. I'm not saying you go to your actual parents and grandparents and saying, you are traumatized, this is what happened to you, this is why I'm this way. That's the worst thing to say. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about, hey, maybe you're going around going, what's going on with me? Why is there such stress when I'm dealing with my parents? Well, you now may understand intergenerational trauma, maybe from this deep dive and go, I see, maybe that's what's happening. What can I do about it? The only thing we can control is ourselves. So you're not trying to talk about any of this for the other person. You're talking about this for yourself. I'm talking to you. Lots of people, but really to you. I hope I'm making sense there. Oh, by the way, can't believe I didn't say this. Did you know the term intergenerational trauma originated from Holocaust survivors and their offspring? So the Holocaust, I don't want to trigger anybody here, but a horrific event in history. Clinicians and researchers discovered the survivors of the Holocaust offspring. So Holocaust survivors, their offspring and their offspring and their offspring were psychologically distressed, but they didn't directly experience the Holocaust, right? That is intergenerational trauma. And that's how it came about. So that's why I'm talking about this, because you can think of a historic, distressing, horrific event that we all know about trickling down to generations of today, 2023. And that is my job. How to heal from it, live with it, navigate it, manage those daily stressors that you may see that Kang-Ho probably will still experience. Perhaps if we had a sequel, it would be about how he's parenting, right? Okay, now let's talk about, I think I saw something else. This is from me, 3 important healing moments that I need you to look at. So what I actually looked at was the fact that overall, this is talking about that generational, transgenerational, multi-generational trauma and its impact directly on the mom to the son. But then I need you to look at the healing moments, and I'm pretty sure you guys can know it because they were pretty obvious. That's why I love this drama. Number 1 healing moment that I saw that was beautiful was Hamshik's mom and Kang-Ho's mom. You know what I'm talking about? When she discovers that Yeong-soon is dying, what does she do? All that angst of the competition between two boys, where she feeling like some chick's not good enough, or feeling like Kang-Ho's mom was, upping her each time. They have this moment where they're real with each other. And Yeong-soon, Kang-Ho's mom says, or Lamiran actually says how she's feeling. Saying, actually, I was jealous of you. Why am I bringing that up? That's her recognizing her own trauma. She's saying, you know what? I did not have that spouse, that partner. I had it once. This is what happened. So I was jealous of seeing that. That's so beautifully said. That is a healing moment of recognizing your own, in some sense, angst, your own narrative of your struggles, your insecurities. And in that moment, they both recognize it. Doesn't mean they're done and they're like, there's never going to be that angst. No, I want to make it clear. There's always going to be an angst, but you had to have that moment of sharing. That's number one. I love that moment. Number two, Miju. You guys all know this. When she said thank you to her mother, I don't know about you, but I think that's difficult. I don't think I could say that to my mom. I've said thank you for other stuff, but not thank you for maybe the way she's disciplined me or raised me. Oh, there goes the tissues. No, I think that's a very powerful moment that we can walk away with. It doesn't mean literally that we will go thank our parents or grandparents or, whoever for certain things that happen. But I think it's more of a empathetic and compassionate outlook and perspective that Miju chose to have for her own healing, because she also experienced intergenerational trauma. I don't even want to go into her because there's so much onto that, but her own father's deficiencies, her mother trying to enable the father. There's all that there, right? You guys saw that. That's pretty obvious. She also has that, but she also embraced her, I would say, her narrative, her perspective. She was a very strong character. I loved her character. Many of you guys said you loved her character. And she was that rock. But that moment, to get her mother to understand her, what did she do? She shared how she understood her mother. So that's an example of what you can do. Do you see that she was sharing from her heart of how she was thankful not to get her mom to change her mind just because. No, she was sharing, Mom, I understand you. So I need you to understand me. Here's why I understand you. You gave me a dad. You did this for me. I mean, it's beautifully written. The translation was good. And I just wanted to point that out as an example of perhaps how you could have a conversation. But again, you're sharing for yourself because she believed in something that she was doing at that moment that her mom didn't agree with. And then lastly, the ultimate healing moment that we can also learn from is how Lamiran's character, Yeong-soon, wrote that letter at the end. So I'm not saying you necessarily go and write a letter, but you could. There's such beauty in writing. It could be a journal entry and you formulate your thoughts. But that letter she wrote, that we also know throughout the K-drama, she had addressed it all. Talking to her son, apologizing. There were some sad moments where she realized what she had done. You saw all that. But that letter was the culmination of it all. Her summing everything up. It was like her way of going, I want to explain it in writing. I want to say this to you and leave you with that. And she shares what she would have done differently. So I think that to me was such a difficult moment as a mom because she's about to pass and there's regret. But I think her regret was where she came to at peace going, I can't change the things I've done. I'm happy where things are at now, the here and now. And here's the letter I'm going to write to my son for his own sake, right? And just sharing, I cannot wait to do this all over again. So I think that was so well done. Those are the 3 moments of healing. I'm going to see if there's any questions here. I thought I'd get through it crying. I kind of did. But I also want to share that the very thing that I want you to get out of this is not walking away going, I understand intergenerational trauma. I want you to walk away going, how do I heal? What does healing look like for me? How did the character of Kang-Ho heal? He did. He was still healing, but his own healing was coming from the fact that he had to figure out everything that happened to his mother and him to impact his childhood. He found out, he did something about it. That's the dramatic and plot line, right? And then Yeong-soon realizing when she got a second chance in a very horrific accident, but in her own way deciding I'm going to change things. She still was the same person, by the way. It's not like we saw 180. People are like, oh, how do you understand the change in the dynamics? I don't think there was much change in dynamics. I think what we saw was just the harshness that was difficult to take, but we saw her pretty consistent. She was harsh. Remember when she was trying to get him to walk? I mean, I was like, oh, that moment was very triggering. I was like, oh my goodness, you know, and she shared in an interview, she wouldn't have done it that way, but she understood the character. But it basically brought her to, it was I guess, a very fruitful method because it worked. And that, by the way, there is a therapeutic method like that. Exposure therapy. I just had to bring it up because I want you guys to know that there's some evidence-based in exposing someone to their fears. Okay. I don't work that way. That's not necessarily what I focus on, but there are people who work like that. The clinicians who go, you need to literally be in a room of spiders to deal with them. And so there is a method, and that's what she was doing. Get away from that fear, do it so you can get better. And so we saw that. And again, I'm looking at it from that perspective, so hoping that you can understand that as well. Okay, I think I've said everything I need to say, and I wanted to share, someone brought this up. Makings of a wonderful K-drama. When you have the bad guys, you know, the Goonies from, the bad guys, like helpers, right? Right-hand people. I don't even know their names. They were hilarious. So through it all, you saw them, and I just thought, you know what's going to happen, right? Everybody was like, I'm thinking that they're going to be part of the community and help Kang-Ho. And I think that was pretty obvious. But then I just didn't expect at the very end they would become farmers. But that's awesome. So that is an example of how K-dramas weave in what you think would be the bad guys, and they weren't even the real antagonists, but still how they became part of that community, and they became changed. Their storyline was kind of on the sides, but they themselves got changed by the community and loving the farming and accepting everything a part of that community that they thought was, you know, gross and everything. You get won over by goodness. So that's another part of my message. How do you heal? What does it look like to break that good-bad cycle? I say good and bad because there are moments there that are good for your growth, that you're learning. And by the way, I know so many wonderful stories to this day of people who use their difficult times, sorrows, tragedies for good, to be the excellent speakers that they are, to be the excellent leaders that they are. So that's what I mean by good. And then the bad, where you're stuck in a cycle that could show toxic behavior, unhealthy relationships. That's what we work on. And that's what I need you to continually work on. Reset every day, right? Pigs. Okay. I mean, there's so much symbolism here, right? Pigs and the song. Another hint to why I think this K-drama I knew was going to be hopeful and on some sense happy was the intro. Think of all the K-dramas you've seen, and the intros are critical to telling the story. You see a little cute piglet, and then you see this like cute, I don't know, the writing on the wall was like kid writing, right? Made sense. And then it was all cutesy, like cartoony. I saw that every episode. Some of them I would skip so I could get to the episode, but I still watched the intro going, this is the hopefulness of this drama. With all the darkness and sadness in between, I need you to look at the overall arc. If you, again, want to just focus on the trauma and the bad parts, then it's not good for your mental health. Then I'm going to say to you, I need you not to do that, because that's my job, is to make sure that we go navigate through that and don't stay there. You may experience right now a very difficult time or trauma. How can you push through it? Kind of like swim a lap through it. I always use this like swimming pool theory where you could just walk up to the swimming pool, go on to the other side. You could walk out of the pool and go to the other side, but I'm asking you to swim a lap. So your muscles get built stronger, you have that cardio, and you're more resilient. That's what it looks like. Oh, of course, I'm going to add in a happy note. Yeah, why did one neighbor wear a mask? I don't know. I think it was meant to be facetious. I mean, we could look into it and analyze it, but I'm glad they showed her at the end, because she was that actress in Little Women. She's actually pretty well known, I believe, and she was interesting. But she had those moments of saying real truth, right, behind a mask, and I think they were trying to be funny, you know, and so, and it was funny. I mean, at some points I was like, I don't like the mask she's wearing, but a lot of the times it was just part of the oddballness of the community, different people contributing to the story. And she was actually a very important part too, right? And they all showed that love. So I'm going to end there. This was longer than I suggested. Some more series regarding marriage and love. I'll have to get back to you on that, because I'll have to think about it, because I want to share some good theories. But that's my deep dive. I hope that was helpful. You can see how much I had to share about it, and I do recommend it. But again, it's not for everybody, and it can trigger some unpleasant memories and things that you may be going through. But why K-dramas for mental health are powerful? They can also help heal you. You're seeing someone else's experience. It may relate a lot to yours, but it's not your experience per se. So externalize it, watch someone else's story, and see how you can learn from Yeong-soon, Kang-Ho, and the community. Thanks, guys. All right, stay in touch, and I will see you again soon, of course. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Bye. I wonder if I should end with the song. You know what? I'm going to end with the song. I think it's very important. The I'm Happy song. All right, guys. Bye-bye.